Thank you.
Okay, we're starting in a couple of minutes or 20 seconds. We'll give everybody a chance to come into the room. All right, I'm just going to start talking. So hi, everybody. Welcome back to Teaching Green. I'm Barbara Weinreich, one of the co-chairs of the symposium and the interim director of graduate programs at the New York School of Interior Design. So as we're moving toward the conclusion of our symposium, we come to a very important constituency in the question of how do we effectively teach about sustainability in interior design education, the students. We wanted to hear from them about their experiences in this area and also their hopes and aspirations and suggestions, although, nicely. We're so pleased to welcome these interior design students from the New York area as well as from across the country to ask them, what do you think? And we're very lucky to have as moderator, Professor Taneshia West-Albert, who is Assistant Professor of Interior Design at Auburn University. Taneshia West-Albert, MFA, IDEC, EDAC, NCIDQ, ASID, USGBC, is an enthusiastic, award-winning educator and design practitioner. Her research and creative scholarship explores cultural identity, meaning and trauma, diversity and inclusion, and methods to increase intercultural competency in design education and practice. Her design career is focused on design for healthcare environments, corporate interiors, and higher education. She also focuses on issues of inclusion, diversity, and equity within design education and the design profession. And with that, I hand it over to Taneshia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for New York School of Interior Design for asking me to host this panel. So why are we here? There is a great Native American proverb that says, we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. And while I'm not old enough to be anyone's mother on this panel, I do think it is very important that we understand from the next generation of interior designers what they see in our profession, what they hope for our profession, and how we can make the world more sustainable and better for everyone. So I am going to turn it over to our panel members, to our student panel members, and ask them to introduce themselves so that you can hear from them their passion for interior design.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Dylan. I'm a MFA graduate student at Pratt Institute. I have undergraduate degree in business. Currently, I work in residential design. Aside from going to school, and I'm currently doing my thesis as well on sustainability as it relates to tourism and the impact of travel on the environment.
Hi, I'm Katie, or Catherine Smith. I go to the Fashion Institute of Technology, and I'm getting my bachelor's degree in interior design. I also am minoring in ethics and sustainability and history of art. And I'm working on my thesis in sustainability and how it relates to hospitality.
Hey y'all, I'm Marley Francis Young. I am a student at Auburn University, War Eagle. Hopefully we're gonna beat Georgia in the next few minutes, but we'll see. I am studying interior design at Auburn, of course, also getting my master's in interior design, specifically with commercial and hospitality design. Love sustainability and the thought, like Dylan said, the impact on tourism.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rashay Rucker, and I am a student at NYSID, currently in the MFA 1 program, and this is my last year. Very excited about that. And I am the Green Design President at NYSID as well, and that has given me a lot of insight into the industry and hope for what we can do as interior designers.
Hi, my name is Sabrina. I study at Parsons, and I'm currently getting my BFA in interior design. I'm also minoring in psychology. And in terms of like sustainability, I know that I'm thinking I might want to pursue furniture design one day as a possibility. And I've just always been really interested in like material qualities and like how to make things last in a way that we grow sentimental relationships and like want to keep things longer. And yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah, and I'm from Virginia Tech. I'm currently getting my BS in interior design, and I am studying material health for my thesis project.
Hi everyone, I am Vanessa. I attend the University of Minnesota here in Minneapolis. I am majoring in interior design with a minor in sustainable studies, and one sector that I'm interested in is sustainable and affordable housing.
Well, I don't know about anybody else watching, but I am impressed, humbled, and a little intimidated by you all. So I'm just going to jump in with the first few questions. So what was your most successful sustainability experience during your education?
I can take this one away. It was really awesome to have in our studio classes and our parameters for whatever the case was, if it was residential, commercial, whatever the case, to have in the programmatics, like it needs to be ADA, it needs to have sustainable requirements. And even that with the bare minimum of our classes starting off freshman year, having that sustainability idea drilled in our brains kind of as we became upperclassmen has been very beneficial. Like that is the bare minimum, is to be already thinking we should be practicing sustainable design.
I could also share my experience. So Pratt has been very encouraging to allow us to kind of develop our own studies. And in doing so, they supported me in using my summer to do some field research in Mexico related to tourism specifically, in which I was able to live there for 6 weeks studying sustainability directly. And what I found was quite interesting. I found kind of the exact opposite, hence my thesis proposal, and really studying the impact of tourism. And then Pratt allowed me to bring back that research to the school and share it to them with a talk and a lecture. So that was kind of really amazing for the program to support my own personal research and then have it related back to the program and be able to share my findings with the faculty and the student body.
I would like to add a very particular experience that comes to mind. I'm very grateful that Parsons really includes like sustainability education in every aspect of all our assignments from like beginning to end. But this one day that we had this like guest type professor come in, and she had like all these materials laid out on a table and asked like groups of people to come and approach them and take materials. And then we had to like look at the info tags on them and see like what their material, like what their composition was and what was needed to make them. And then it was like this exercise where we had to see where those materials were sourced from, what was used to make that, how far did it have to travel, like just everything and all the amount of people who were part of how that material got to me on that day, just to see like the larger impact. And I thought that was a day that I called all my friends and family to tell them about it.
You can go ahead. I'll go after.
I just wanted to add to Marley's comment about how, I am so sorry. My laundry just finished. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh, about how sustainability was a requirement in your projects. And I feel like that's been one of the most successful things a part of Virginia Tech, is requiring that as a part of a project. It's not something that's an addition, it's an expectation for the project, so that, when you go out into the world, we are already expected to be on that level. So I just want to add that to Marley's comment.
Going off of Sarah and Sabrina, I think the U really touches on sustainability in every project that we do. Last year, we actually touched on a project that overall encompassed sustainable housing, but from a culturally sensitive aspect. And so diversity and inclusion was really touched on, and it was centered around the client being a Somali demographic. And in Minnesota, the Somali group is very prevalent here, and just hearing their stories really just fuels my passion for design and why I want to design for people who are most in need.
Yeah, and I guess I'll go ahead and comment as well. Just to reiterate what Sarah and Marley were saying, it's a little bit different at NYSID, but with our courses, we do think about like what other sustainable aspects you can bring to your project. For a thesis, for example, you have to at least have 3 sustainable goals that you can put into action. So it's not just about creating something that is aesthetically sustainable. It's like, okay, we want sustainability to be a part of every single project that we have moving forward, not just in school, but also in the world as well. So I think that's something that we've been doing recently, and I really love that for us.
Yeah, and I guess I'll add to that as well. FIT does a great job at making sure, as Sarah and Marley also have mentioned, to incorporate sustainability in interior design projects and make sure that it is an expectation that your final product will be in some way sustainable. So a similar experience.
It's really encouraging to hear that every school that is represented here is embedding sustainability into the projects. And that's really exciting. And Dylan, I almost want to steal the idea of a sustainability study abroad tour like that for Auburn. We might have to talk later. That seems like such a neat thing. So we might have to talk. But going off of that, what course or course of study was most meaningful to you and why?
I could start with this one. So at FIT, we take a design technology course, and that's a course that we kind of do AutoCAD and Revit, but we are also introduced to sustainable materials, and we learn a lot about the LEED and well building standards and kind of how those are really important aspects to look at in a project and within buildings. And then as a part of my minor, I took a psychology for sustainability course. And that one really helped one understand kind of how the brain's response to sustainability efforts kind of differ between people, and how the built environment can kind of affect one's mood and behavior. So it was really beneficial for me in a way. I really enjoyed the class and kind of getting into the head of other people and how kind of environments will affect their outlook on things. So
I know that at Parsons, I feel that the most impactful class I took was ecological design. And I feel like up until that point, like, you know, we had learned a lot about like materials and like how certain ones are sourced unethically, or maybe there's like off gassing and they can like affect you just in being in their home. But this class had a lot to do also with the idea of like changing behaviors in people who are in a space, and how in changing behaviors, we could also like help the environment like in that way, just like very subtly. So like perhaps like if you have like coat racks, like it encourages people to want to bring their coats, and like very small things, or even just like designing a layout in a way where, you know, if you have like a compost area, like very like visibly centered somewhere, but just like small things. And I really liked, I think in a psychological perspective, like that idea.
That class sounds really interesting. And I was just thinking before this seminar that we're having, that I wish I had a class that maybe talked about like those little impacts that you can make that can not force, but encourage people to make those better choices, whether it's for the environment or even for their mental health. A class that I took, I can't remember the exact name, but it was a professional interior design class. And we learned a lot about, you know, building a resume and how to network and how to get that job after you graduate from college. But one thing we touched on was LEED, well, all of those other sustainable categories that you can design within. And we did an intense research project about each of those categories. So that was really helpful to start the learning process about them.
I can add on to that. We had a class where you can become LEED certified. So it's way deeper than just studying for that test. It's going into an actual semester of what it actually means, going a little bit deeper than teaching yourself. I almost wish it was a required class for Auburn. And I feel like in the trends, how sustainability is going on, I feel like that will eventually become part of our curriculum and a required class. But another class that I really enjoyed and I just talk about all the time in all my theory projects with Professor Albert is precedent. We took a history of interior design class, 2 sections of it, and completely fell in love because there's no way to design sustainably unless you understand the impact that we have had in the past. And you can't design sustainably unless you understand where you're designing, because tabby may be really sustainable to use as your lay and your slab, but in, I don't know, Costa Rica. But then if you're in Michigan, not so much, right? Because it's the burning of oysters and that transportation. So I thought that was really interesting to understand and see the impact of maybe one material might be sustainable here, but not elsewhere. And the only reason we know that is because of history and seeing designers make bad choices or designers make great choices.
I can add to that as well. At NYSID, we take an introduction to sustainability, which is like laying the groundwork for all things green design and sustainable. But then also I've taken building systems, which teaches more about energy efficiency and how to work with the building envelope as far as, you know, daylighting and things like that. But surprisingly enough, one of the classes that really opened my eyes to what we can be as interior designers in sustainability is textiles for interior design. We learned about just that in textiles, there's so much waste that we have coming from, you know, our manufacturers, our vendors, and coming to us, and then also to the landfills. And we can do a lot better when it comes to that, and just the over consumerism we can have in our industry. And looking at that, I think, is very important to being stronger.
I love that, Rashay, because when you look at the news, there's so much textile waste being just dumped in developing nations. And when you talk about equity and you talk about our impact on people, you just cannot deny textile and textile waste and everything that we're doing to poison the environment for textiles. So I love that. So on that note, what would you all like to see offered in terms of sustainability content in your school? I'm like taking notes, textiles, study abroad, sustainability trips. But what do you guys, what are you looking to see?
I could jump in on this question. Something that was very meaningful and impactful from my experience developing an interest in sustainability was extracurricular activities through our school. So we designed through the IIDA student chapter at Pratt, we organized a sustainable panel, and we brought in some professionals from Gensler and Knoll to kind of speak to the students about what it means to be a professional with a focus on sustainability. And I think that that was really insightful for a lot of students to understand the opportunity for that career path, and to know that there's new developing opportunities in that field, especially with all of the political change that's happening and the emphasis on sustainability as we move into the future. So yeah, I think that bringing in a more interactive experience with professionals would be a really meaningful experience, and it was for me.
In addition to that, I just fell in love. If y'all have ever heard of Jekyll Island, it's in Georgia and it's stunning. We just came back from a field trip over there, and I know it sounds silly to be in college and say field trips. We went on field trips, but I feel like actually going to a place not only brought me closer with my peers, and something that I really love about Auburn's program. It's not in a competitive sense, but we all work together, which I love. The field trips really brought us together, but also we were able to see the local sustainable practices and see it firsthand. And that's also why I did hospitality before I went into interior design, because I thought there's no way for me to be able to design for hospitality spaces unless I understand how the space is used. I'm a very hands-on learner, visual learner, and I feel like those field trips added on to that. So I know the material, I know the history behind the cottages at Jekyll Island and for that type of design in Georgia.
I want to reiterate what Marley's saying, because our school has done some projects for the local city nearby, and we go and visit it, and it's great to do the site visits, because then you get to practice what you're going to do, you know, post college, and you get to get that hands-on experience, take those dimensions. I know this isn't sustainability related, but I can't reiterate that enough, how helpful that is.
For me, I would like to see more in the schools, I think with creation and us as creators as well. When you think about a lot of like the great interior designers or great decorators or anything, architects, a lot of them also are like, you know, furniture makers, or they're like artists as well. And I think if we can learn how to create sustainable things that we can use in, you know, our world, then maybe that could be helpful as well. Us as designers, but also us as creators.
Going off of that, I think diving even deeper, especially here at the University of Minnesota, we always talk about sustainability at a very broad scale. We always talk about, you know, what it is, everything wrong about it, what change we want to see in the future, but we hardly ever talk about like the nitty gritty details of everything that we could be all doing in our daily lives. And I feel like until we start making, you know, comments and having those discussions about sustainable routines that we can all do, we can implement those into our designs, where the users can take that on and take that whole sustainability process that we created for them, and just continue that like legacy of sustainable living and a sustainable community.
Vanessa, I wonder if like having a class at colleges related to that would be really helpful for anybody in any major, you know, just to like, what could we all be doing to be more sustainable on our own, you know, minuscule level.
I'm with you, Sarah. And I think, Vanessa, you mentioned something earlier about the connection of sustainability and culture, speaking about the Somali population. That's something that I hope to see in everyone's school, the connection of what human sustainability means. I think you touched on that earlier, but I think that would be something definitely integral to future education of sustainability. Now that we understand the materials and the planet, let's talk about human sustainability. And you touched on that. I thought that was genius. So just to segue only slightly, because you guys touched on this as well, what does sustainability in our profession mean to you all? I know this is a tough question, so I'm going to give you a minute to think about that.
I can start, actually. Oh,
got it, Serena.
Yeah, because it's something that my friends and I like ask ourselves a lot often, especially as we're getting prepared to graduate. And I think we all kind of touched on it in our various answers to these different questions, but it's kind of like this all-inclusive experience where it's not just materials, it's not just the environment, but it's like the people, their working conditions, and like how, like it's, I don't know, it's kind of just making sure that the entire creating process is as healthy as it can possibly be from like start to finish in all aspects.
Yeah, and adding to that, I think one of our main goals in the profession is to create these healthy, comfortable environments for people. And so by making sure that the environment surrounding that is also healthy and safe for people to live in, I think it's kind of almost our responsibility to make sure that that is being taken care of. So I think just all inclusive with inside and outside, it's very important to make sure that it is healthy.
Catherine, I just wanted to say I love that analogy of like, you know, designing the inside to help the outside. I love that.
I think for me, sustainability in our profession really is just enhancing the work that we already do, just taking that extra step, that extra leap in the whole design process. And there's that saying where like one drop of water in a lake creates this sort of like ripple effect and this whole lasting effect. And when we really take into account sustainability, it not only impacts the design, but again, touching on our communities, the way we live, and our overall well-being.
Kind of what Vanessa was just talking about as the ripple effect. I think what's interesting about our profession is that sustainability is a topic that we discuss and that we learn about, but that's not quite the case across the board in other professions. So I think it's kind of very valuable for us to kind of have this knowledge, because it's important for us to educate others, not just education in the sense of academia, but educate our friends, our neighbors, our family, and really start to share our own experience with studying sustainability with some of the people that might not have had the opportunity or the encouragement to kind of look into the topic of sustainability. So ultimately, I think sustainability is education, and that far extends beyond the academia and the educational institutions that we consider.
And I quickly wanted to add, like, off of what Catherine said and Dylan, but like more so specifically, like in your wording, Catherine, but how it is a bit of like a responsibility on our part, I feel.
Yeah, and then tacking off of both of those, I remember, Sabrina, you mentioned how you took a class where you learned about kind of what people or things that you can change in interiors to help promote more sustainable lifestyles. And I think we have that power to kind of have people make those changes by altering interiors in slight ways to help people also make different sustainability choices within their own lifestyles.
I love it. I love it. So tell me, because I'm all into this moment right here, what is something about or related to sustainability that you all think our profession is missing or not paying enough attention to?
We'll just start with mine. I am very passionate about material health. One thing I noticed in a recent project of mine is that I was speccing a flooring, and it was from a major company. I won't say what it was. And I was looking at the information about it, and it said may contain formaldehyde. And I was dumbfounded. How could you even, it's 2021. How could you even consider putting this in a product at this point? You know, this is, you know, day one for me, you know. And then this is just something on a personal level, but I've made some changes in like products and materials that I use, and I've seen an improvement in my health. And so seeing that on a personal level, I want to see that, you know, create a bigger change throughout the profession.
Bouncing off of that, I find that really interesting because in my personal life, I have switched to more natural skincare, and it's like, oh my gosh, how different is it? It feels like so many things in food also have been changed so much over time. It's like, okay, the original is better, the natural is better. And I feel like we have just lost that and that disconnect, just trying to make things so much better that they are now going back the other way. I'm really passionate about incorporating local anything into my design. So I want you to walk into a hotel and know that you are in something that is completely unique to the area. You have local furniture, you're supporting local cuisine, all those different aspects are all within the design. And I think in our profession, sometimes that gets a little lost. People think, okay, interior design, we're there for the architecture and it needs to look good and that's it. I feel like interior design goes so much further than just that. I think it incorporates all different types of things in hospitality as well. So cuisine, how can we tie that into sustainable experiences for those who are going to come and use our space?
I think I have a huge interest in how, like, looking at the waste that we produce, not only in just like the interior design, but like the construction waste from buildings and reusing any of the materials we can use. I think that we have so much already on Earth and we keep creating so much more, and it's like, you know, there's only so much the Earth can hold. So using natural materials, trying to cut down on waste, and then reusing the things that we can use, I think it's very important, and I would love to learn more about how we can do that and incorporate that into our designs.
Also, I find that a lot of people think that that's just like such a special aspect when you walk into a design and you're like, oh, this like reused wood from a ship that sunk like 100 years ago, something like funky like that. Also, it's sustainable and people are like, wow, there's a story behind it, not just that, oh, it was made in a factory that has inappropriate composition. So I think that that also like people are interested to know what we can do and how we can do it. And it's also sustainable.
Exactly. And I want to say one more thing too. I think also creating things that are built to last is very important as well. So like in the past, like we have, seen things just break down over time, but like if we really are, cognizant about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and keeping the integrity of, the building and our design, we can create things that are here for a while and not breaking down and creating more waste and putting more things in the landfill, which we don't need.
Yeah, that was kind of one of my points to kind of backpack off of. I mean, when we look at IKEA furniture and we look at, we have the ability to make the choices for the projects that we're doing in order to kind of select things that have a longer a lifespan and they're made of quality and things that aren't made to be disposed of, kind of what we're seeing in these new trends, these e-commerce trends of there's actually now furniture that has a life cycle maybe of a year or two, and it's like toss it when you get a new apartment or toss it when you move. So I think it's really important for us to communicate that to our clients, as well as to select things that one are not going to go out of trend. So we also have a influence in selecting items that aren't going to maybe be in trend right now, but a year later it's going to hit the landfill. So we definitely have a responsibility there to educate our clients and select things that aren't going to land up or do our best ability to make sure that they don't end up in the landfill.
Something I was also thinking about, like in all of this, was this idea that like, and also with like IKEA, actually, like sometimes on their webpage, they'll have certain things marked as like, oh, like made with healthier woods. And certain brands, like their leading thing is that they are sustainable. And it's kind of this thing that like people are drawn towards because it's like this like special, like cool thing. And I just sometimes wish it was more of a standard and not the exception of, oh, wow, like they did that. Like that should just be everything. But yeah.
I want to backpack on that. I also was thinking about how, Dylan mentioned trends. And I think about like clothing, and this, includes furniture too, and how everyone wants to jump on these trends and keep up with the trends. But, how can we design in a way so that, it's seen as current and up to date, but something that's going to aesthetically and durability wise last for years to come, without someone thinking like, oh, I'll just buy something else and we'll replace it in a few years. So I like that you guys brought that up.
Yeah, and that I think that brings up the great and ultimate challenge of selecting designs that are timeless and that are still going to be relevant, and that's kind of up to us as design professionals, and really ultimately a challenge that we're going to be grappling with our entire career, is really to select things that are not going to go out of trend as fast as we hope they don't. Yeah.
So I think we had a question from someone. Barbara, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump. I can do this. It'll probably be a little easier. So we have a lot of your professors on the comments line. So I hope you're all getting extra credit for this also. So we have a question. Be interested to know if the students feel they see a connection between their work and human and non-human health and safety as standard for licensure. So that's a little bit what you've been talking about already. If you see if you see a connection between your work and human health and safety, this is a standard. So do you feel like you've already answered that one in terms of, are there things that you're being taught and you're not being taught in school right now that you feel like about health and safety? Or maybe you don't know what you don't know, but do you wonder if, healthy materials, there's this great program at Parsons, obviously, which was an eye-opener for me as well. Do you have courses like that tell you about toxic materials and how to avoid specifying those? You do. You're all nodding. Okay, well then all these schools you're done. Okay. Here's another question. How about your classmates or co-instructors? Are there any struggle with aspects of sustainable design within the curriculum, and what would be your advice to them? I think this means, are there things that aren't working? Are there things that particular people struggle with, like code or things like that?
And let me actually add to that, because our next question was if you could ask professors and professionals to do something to support sustainability and your sustainability interests, what would it be? And I think those two really align. So I'll add that too.
They're thinking.
I can start. So something I've noticed when working on projects and kind of struggling with is kind of seeing a lot of greenwashing within the industry and furniture design, even within material selection, and kind of not fully seeing kind of, yeah, a piece of furniture may be sustainable, but where is it coming from, and kind of what's that carbon footprint going to be, and how is it produced? And so kind of understanding that a bit more, because yeah, you can select a piece of furniture, but then fully understanding the full impact of it, and maybe that isn't the most sustainable choice for you. So I think maybe some more studies on that, and kind of just how one should source furniture better, or materials, and what are some great places to look at, or some examples of that would I think would be beneficial when moving forward with projects. But I think in terms of professors and industry professionals helping with supporting our sustainability, that was the question, supporting the sustainability interest, I think their continued push to make sure that all of our projects do have that sustainability and green aspect to it, and making sure that's an expectation and not just something that is an afterthought, I think has been great. So continuing that.
I love that you brought up greenwashing. I think that that's a really interesting topic that I didn't think about, because I think as the world as a whole continuously moves and becomes more common knowledge that we have to start to make some changes to the way that we treat our environment, I think greenwashing and these buzzwords are constantly being used to kind of allure consumers. So I think that is important, maybe as academic institutions, to really start to understand as designers, to look past the tactics of greenwashing and really understand and really explore if that product that you're speccing or the furniture that you're using or the finishes actually are sustainable. So a deeper dive and a deeper search into that. I think that was a really interesting thing to bring up, the idea of greenwashing, and something that I actually fell a victim to this summer when I was doing my research. I kind of got allured by greenwashing and figured out that it was kind of all a facade, and there was actually a lot of unfortunate stuff going on behind the scenes.
One thing that we have been doing with one of our projects is we've been working with a more so local furniture company, All Steel. If y'all know All Steel, they have a facility in Birmingham. And so Auburn's not too far from Birmingham. So we've been working and doing lectures with a young lady who works there, and she's telling us different ways to specify our furniture choices, but she goes deeper into that, and she tells us exactly the construction of all the different types of furniture that she would suggest in our commercial space. I've definitely found that extremely helpful, having someone from the outside world come in and teaching us. That's just one company in particular, but now we're open to what we need to be looking for, how we can dig deeper once we are researching and speccing different types of materials.
I would also say, and this is less related to courses, but as far as like the different schools coming together, like I really love this this forum for us, and I'm really excited to like talk about sustainability with other interior designers, not only from NYSID, but Virginia Tech and Pratt and such like that, getting ideas from each other and working together for a brighter industry, I think is very important. And I would love to see that more in the future. So we should try to connect.
So just, can I follow up on that? Because one of the questions was, and this has come up over the course of the symposium over the last day and a half, is about interdisciplinary collaboration. And for some of you who come from, NYSID is a single focus school, which means that we focus on interior design, which is great. but some of you also come from different types, either large universities like Auburn and NYSID and other places, or with schools that have other art disciplines in them. So what about this cross-pollination between disciplines and even departments? Do you see that happening? Is that something you'd like to see in your home institution?
So at Virginia Tech, we have architecture, we have interior design, landscape architecture, industrial design, and we all kind of sit in the same areas. And so, behind me, I have architect students who are getting their masters. I have freshman students, and I get to see them, starting out their studio experience. And I get to see, third year landscape students. And so it's really great so that even if we're not collaborating specifically on a project together, I can be in that space with them and learning about what they're working on and ask them questions, and they can talk to us. And I think it's really great. It's really great to be even just near them. I think there's a lot of the only term I can think of is cross-pollination to describe that experience.
And I think this is a truly valuable experience, because I don't think the interdisciplinary collaboration just needs to happen within the school, but this is a really valuable experience to meet students from other universities, not just in New York, but around the country. So I think more of this integrated into educational institutions would be extremely beneficial and should be encouraged more in the future. And I'm so happy that this is happening.
So I'd like to welcome Kaylee too, Kaylee, we're sort of toward the back end of this now, but why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, and you're muted right now, what you do at LSU.
Hi guys, I'm sorry, I thought I started at 3, so I think I got the wrong time or something, but I'm currently a 4th year senior at LSU studying interior design, and right now we are having an option studio and also working on our senior thesis, doing some research for that. For this first semester, it's all about figuring out what our thesis is going to be, what our focus is going to be, and then next semester in the spring we'll actually be designing it. So it's very exciting to be starting that. And it's a big project, and our professor really emphasizes to do something that we're very passionate about. So it kind of drives my passion for it. So I'm very excited to start working on it.
Well, welcome, and we're happy to see you. I will say there's a couple more questions, and please forgive me, I forgot who spoke about their technology class, but this is for you. Someone's really interested in the software course and wants to know if you could speak a little bit more about the exercise and the experience and the value of understanding thermal comfort, daylight, electrified lighting, all those great things that we make you guys drink through a fire hose and learn. So can you speak a little bit more about that experience with sustainability?
So yeah, we had some classes in my previous years of sustainable design and learning the necessities of it and the significance of it, and really diving deep into that with the lighting and the thermal comfort, and just something basically we need that in design. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what exactly. Do you mind going deeper into what you want me to say?
No, that's okay. Actually, someone mentioned earlier about their technology class incorporating sustainability. Was that you, Catherine?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about what was in that class and about the connection of learning the software through the sustainable focus and those different aspects? Can you talk a little bit more about that, Catherine?
Yeah, of course. So we would start off the semester by learning about sustainable materials, and we would each select a different material and then give presentations on ways those could be more sustainable. So taking things like paint and finding better sources for that. And same thing with wood, and finding companies that create sustainable products. And then we would move into kind of Revit and those softwares, and we would learn about daylight and thermal comfort, and we would build a model in New York City and kind of change the lighting and change the lighting and then calculate kind of what would create the best thermal comfort. So if you have north-facing windows, the sunlight's going to heat up the place, things like that. So we would look a lot at those kind of models and cater that towards LEED and the WELL building standards. So looking at how our buildings would fall in those ranges. So that's something that we looked at. And yeah, I hope that answered the question a little bit.
Yeah, did you guys use?
So sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Marley.
Well, I was gonna say this. I think that that's a really awesome idea, and I almost wish that Auburn did that, because it sounds like it's a little bit more slower into sustainability and like taking it step by step, like already starting off digging deeper. Whereas I feel like Auburn, we have kind of done the overview, and then as we get deeper into studios, we start going a little bit deeper. So I almost wish that it was a little more flip-flopped, so that I know exactly more specifically how to be sustainable rather than learning that later on. So then in my portfolio, it'll be a little bit more strong about sustainability.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you guys use Revit, Catherine, or what software did you guys use? I'm curious.
For this class in particular, we used Revit. The beginning courses of design technology was AutoCAD heavy, and then in the last portion of it, it was Revit. And then I know in my studio classes, people were kind of using Rhino and SketchUp and things along that line. But for this specifically, Revit has that sort of calculation where they do the lighting and the thermal, all that stuff. So that's why we use that.
And we actually at Pratt, we used Rhino, and we used a plugin called Climate Studios. And that was like I think like a professional level sunlight simulation software, which was pretty high tech and really interesting, and kind of that's the software that they used in order to teach us about the sun patterns and sunlight and the thermal qualities. Yeah.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, I know we're getting close to the end of time. We might actually go over just a little bit, because I'm just going to ask all the participants and all the attendees to just humor me with 5 additional minutes, because the last question that I have for you, and there's even a question from one of the attendees, we would love to know what you guys are passionate about interior design, what you're curious about, and what you'd like to learn more about. So that's kind of a meshed question. What's your passion for sustainability? What would you like to learn more about?
I like the answer that already.
With that, so something I'm passionate about with interior design is preservation and restoration of buildings. I think there's something very interesting in taking an existing building or part of an existing building and repurposing that and reusing that to kind of I don't know, stick with the old, but also create new. And it prevents people from ripping something down completely. And I feel like that's almost a more sustainable method. And I kind of want to learn more about that within studies, but that's something I'm really passionate about. Yeah.
I could follow up on that. Something I've already touched on multiple times, something that I'm passionate about moving forward is sustainability as it relates to travel and tourism. I think that many people enjoy travel and taking vacations, and it's really important to understand our impact, not just on the environment, but on the local communities that we're intervening with when we do travel. So that's something that I'm looking forward to, I guess, addressing that in my thesis, but my career as I move forward, and maybe get into some sort of travel design as it relates to resorts, hospitality, as well as maybe travel interiors like airports and stuff like that. Yeah.
I am also very So sorry, Sabrina. I'm also very passionate about hospitality and sustainability in hospitality because that is a huge impact. That's one way overall that can make a large impact in just small decisions that we can make as hospitality designers. But one of the questions was like interdisciplinary collaboration. I forced myself to do that. It was all part of the plan to graduate with a hospitality management degree and then go do interior design because I want to design for hotels, restaurants, and bars. And I feel that that has almost made me more competitive once it comes time to be in the professional world, because now not only can I say, oh, I was sitting at a computer and I did it all behind the screen and did renderings, and that's really cool, but now I can say I was actually the one using the spaces, and that's how I know why this door size, the standard, should be different or should be a different material. Even though that's standard, I can now push what is that standard. We can raise the bar even more so. So I think interdisciplinary collaboration would kind of really give us all an extra push, whatever that may be. I feel like almost everything in this world is connected in some way. So I think that applying that to sustainability can really impact on a much larger level than just what we're speccing, but like preservation, like Catherine said, of a building. Let's find out exactly how to do that and work with different people that would be in charge and help us along with that process.
Yeah, I wanted to add that I had mentioned earlier, but I'm really interested in materiality, and even like more specifically, like our relationship with materials and just like the human aspect, which definitely I realize like probably stems from my minor in psychology. But I had once heard this like interesting story that I don't know if any of you guys know what a mocha pot is. It's like this little tin thing that you use sometimes to like make your coffee in the morning. There was this man who had used the same mocha pot for about like 10 years. Like it was like super durable, lasted forever. But like as time went on, like he found himself getting like more and more like agitated and kind of just like anxious, and like he thought something was wrong with him and he wasn't sure. And it actually ended up turning out that as his mocha pot had gotten older and as he was using it on the stove repeatedly, little bits of like metal and whatnot from the container was like getting into his drink, and he was like absorbing these things. And once he bought a new mocha pot, within like a couple of weeks, he had just felt entirely better. And that's like a very specific example, but like just this idea of like how materials we use affects both our health, our well-being, and the environment. And that's something I'm really interested in.
I have to agree with you, Sabrina. I'm also like really interested in material health. And so that is something I would really love to learn more about. Something else I would love to learn more about is just different career opportunities and how, you know, maybe these interests of ours, we could dive deeper than becoming just designers. Maybe we, you know, study the materials of, you know, like what is in that carpet and so on. Just learning about how we can use this degree in different ways, even though, you know, I do want to become a designer, of course, but just how I can expand the opportunities I have.
I would say I definitely agree with all the students, specifically about restoration and healthy materials. But I'm also interested in studying the history of design, as well as vernacular architecture. I think vernacular architecture has a lot to do with thermal comfort and daylighting. They use certain systems in their architecture that have been used for years, and it's local, that are actually pretty energy efficient, and use these concepts that we're learning about now that we kind of have to employ in these modern buildings. But if you take a look back at history and look at you know, communities that are building these things, we actually can learn a lot about interior design and architecture from them. So that's something I'm very interested in as well.
Something that I am super passionate about is designing for the other 90%. The first class I ever took in college in this big lecture hall here at the U was called Intro to Design Thinking. And the very first lecture was all about the other 90%. And ironically, my parents are from the other 90%, which is a community of people who are in marginalized countries all around the world, struggling for survival. And so really thinking about those communities, you know, in design, we design for people. It's all about the human experience, and everyone is so deserving of an equal life and an equal shot at life. And so I think really listening to their stories and understanding and executing a design that fits the needs of all people for their social and environmental well-being is something I'm super passionate about.
I think that's beautiful, Vanessa. I really relate to that as well. I love designing for everyone, and we design for the well-being of everyone, and that really inclusive design has just become so relevant nowadays. But one thing that inspires me, that's been inspiring me and that has piqued my interest, is actually climate change with interior design. I want to learn more about it because I feel like that is becoming a big issue today, and it's not really talked about as much. And just learning how to incorporate that into interior design, and like, where do we go from there with climate change and what's next and that sort of thing is very inspiring to me, and it's intriguing, and I want to learn more about it. So
you guys are so inspiring. You guys, I feel like you're getting a standing ovation from everyone that's tuning in. So I don't even know where else to go from there. I'm buzzing. I'm excited. I've got lots of ideas for my class. Poor Marley. Thank you guys for inspiring us in the profession to do better, be stronger, give more to you guys. Thank you for your passion about sustainability. If you guys are leading the helm for our future, I think we'll be okay. So thank you so much, so much for that. Barbara, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, well, I'm just going to end it. I wanted to say, one of the reasons we did this symposium was because there was an article written by Avi Rajagopal last December about interior design and global warming and the carbon footprint. And it's one of the first times I've actually seen that, interior design and its impact on the carbon footprint in the same sentence. So I encourage you to look for that article. There's also they have an interior design toolkit on Metropolis that's open for everybody to use, which is open source. So that's also another great tool that you could use. I'd like to thank you all so much for coming. I thank you for taking time out of your Saturday. I know you're all really busy and this is your time off, but I really, really appreciate it. This was like a real cornerstone of what we wanted to do. We really wanted to hear from you, and you delivered. And Taneshia West-Albert, thank you for your energy and your wonderful moderation today. And we'll try to do this again, right? I was thinking what we should do is have student congresses where you guys can share ideas and maybe even collaborate between institutions. So who wants to take care of that? No, just kidding. All right, so thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. And we hope you'll watch. Eric Corey-Fried is going to be coming on at 4:30 or so doing a lecture downstairs in our auditorium, but it'll be live streamed. He's a fabulous speaker and you all have access to that. Just go to the agenda and click on it, but I encourage you to do that. I think he's going to be fantastic. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you all for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.